farmers, oil, pickup trucks, churches, and no liberals. Welcome to Camrose, Alberta, a city of about 20,000 people in the federal riding of Battle River-Crowfoot, represented by Conservative Party leader Pierre Poilievre, where in a recent by-election, just 4% of voters backed the Liberal Party and over 80% voted Conservative. While the rest of Canada deals with polarization and division, people here are united. They want Mark Carney out. What are your thoughts on Mark Carney?
Mark Carney? Bad dude.
My name is Ellie. I'm a journalist and I have almost a decade of experience in Canadian politics. And recently, my team and I visited Camrose, not just to talk politics, but to understand why this place has become the most conservative part of Canada. And after driving around town, speaking to locals, and interviewing the riding's former MP, Damien Couric, I came to an eye-opening conclusion that will change the way you see Canadian politics and perhaps Canada itself. But before we get into that, be sure you're subscribed because up to 90% of the viewers of my videos are not subscribed. Hit the notification bell, like the video, comment your thoughts down below, and consider getting a paid channel membership for less than $5 a month. And now, let's get to it. This is Simply Politics.
Journalism commentary 1 year anniversary.
I don't believe journalism being funded by the government is the solution.
You have to rebuild the foundation.
You have to retell the stories.
Market conservative
Other news that actually matters.
I hence wanted to ask. I think they should answer their questions, especially if they're politically charged with.
Part 1, Welcome to Camrose. The city of Camrose is in central Alberta, about 90 kilometers southeast of Edmonton. Edmonton was where my flight landed, and it took about an hour by car to get to Camrose. When we arrived in Camrose, I got into a conversation with a group of men on the side of the road, and obviously these people were not liberal.
The people who live in this area, like, are they, if you were to describe like a typical resident of Camrose, are they like mostly, work, like, what are their occupations? What type of people do we find here?
Well, mostly retired.
Okay.
Retired farmers.
Okay.
And there are families here that go from the up to the city and back. We've got the pipe factory, and but mostly retired farmers.
Did you live in Camrose your whole life? Are you a native from here, or did you move here?
I was born here, but I've lived in different areas.
Okay.
So
And what was your occupation? What were you?
mostly as a meat cutter, but I was also a power engineer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Battle River-Crowfoot federally. That is the most conservative riding in the country, the most right-leaning riding in the country. Why do you think this area is the most conservative area in the country, where people are, 83%, I believe, conservative?
Well, mostly in Camrose here, and all over, actually. We're really blue. So blue is blue. So, yeah, there's a lot of conservatives out here.
And why do you think that is compared to other parts of Canada?
Well, I think we are our own kind of culture, and we think differently than down east. And we've been taken advantage of for many, many years with the equalization payments and stuff like that. So,
What are your thoughts on Mark Carney?
Mark Carney, bad dude. He's out here to finish Canada.
Part 2, the area in numbers. As I previously mentioned, the city of Camrose is in the federal riding of Battle River-Crowfoot. The population of Battle River-Crowfoot is 107,979, and that includes the about 20,000 people who live in Camrose. Other towns in the riding include Drumheller, Wainwright, Settler, and Tree Hills. The last time there was a election in this riding, which was a by-election so that Pierre Poilievre could regain a seat in the House of Commons, the Conservatives got over 80% of the vote, while the Liberals got just 4%. And this isn't the first time that a result like this has taken place. In fact, the redistributed results from the 2011 election show that the Liberals got just 2% of the vote in that riding. As for the demographics, 94% of residents are white, 91% speak English at home, and 59% identify as Christian. The median income in Battle River-Crowfoot is $41,600, and the average income is $51,900. The riding has farmland, cattle operation, and small-town agricultural communities. But it also plays a crucial role in Canada's energy industry. The riding is home to Hardisty, Alberta, and there you'll find the Hardisty Terminal, which serves as a crucial place for the oil and gas sector in Canada. You'll also find an army base in Wainwright, CFB Wainwright. Now, agriculture, oil and gas, the military, small towns, rural Canada, these are all things that are associated with conservatism, which begs the question, is conservatism something connected to how people live?
I'm based in Ottawa, so I cover politics, and this area is statistically the most conservative part of the country. Does that surprise you, or?
No, not really.
Okay.
Like being a high agricultural area, like I'm from Southern Alberta,
Yes.
so it's also very conservative.
Yes.
But just with that, agricultural background and
Yes.
that kind of independence that I see, like a lot of city goers that I know of, there's like transportation, there's a lot of city resources, so you rely more on, government programs and stuff like that. We're more rural, we don't have that access.
Yeah.
And so it ends up being more independent. You have to travel to all these things yourself, so you need your own vehicle. You got to do all these other things, and so it just makes it to where I feel like a lot of people are more independent based in how they think and how they feel of, like, this is what I'm going to do, versus city people, those in like urban areas, they already have that to deal with. They have public transportation, they have all this access. And so it leads good for them to see that like governments can be good and like a more liberal approach that I've seen.
Right.
But being out here rural, it's kind of just doesn't surprise me really.
Part 3, the Farmer MP. In addition to speaking to locals, I spoke to the riding's former MP, Damien Currick, who represented the riding from 2019 all the way up to 2025 when he offered to step down to give his seat to Pierre Poilievre, the Conservative leader, after Pierre Poilievre lost his Ottawa seat. Damien Currick is not your typical politician, and in many ways he embodies the very people who live in Battle River-Crowfoot, the most conservative part of Canada. He is not a big city lawyer, accountant, or big corporation CEO. He is a farmer, graduated from Consort Public School in the riding, and he studied biblical studies at Eston College and got a bachelor's in political science and communication, which happens to be the same degree that I have, from Trinity Western University. Before becoming an MP, Currick also worked in the Saskatchewan Legislative Assembly and for the riding's former MP, which he became the successor of, Kevin Sorensen.
My family has lived in Consort the whole way through. My kids can walk to school. I've been involved in my family farm the whole way through my political involvement. Had worked in the energy industry, driving a pressure truck, which is how I paid for my university education. Battle River-Crowfoot, it's about 56,000 square kilometers, so it's a very big area. There's about 60 plus self-governing municipalities in that, from small little villages of just over 100 to one small city that is about 20,000. So you have, and then there's a whole host of farms and what we call hamlets, very, very small communities that aren't actually incorporated on their own. They're just part of a larger rural area, but you'll have a few homes or maybe a school or a business or something like that, a post office sometimes. But the story, I think, for much of what is Battle River-Crowfoot, and I think what much of the prairie story is that, when this region was settled a little over a century ago, when the railway came through, there was seen to be tremendous opportunity when it came to the rich agricultural resources. This morning, I hauled a load of canola so was up and out the door at I think I got into the truck this morning at 5:45 a.m. where hauling a B train load of canola to a local processing terminal and being able to plan for getting involved in putting the crop in here in a couple of weeks, despite the snow that's forecasted to come in the next couple of days. The people here in rural Alberta, they're tough, they're strong, and we see a diversity of communities across Battle River-Crowfoot that is just truly an incredible group of people. And then in addition to that, you have the typical stuff that every community has, from schools and hospitals on a smaller scale than what large cities might be familiar with, to businesses, whether serving the larger industries, car dealerships, mechanic shops, or or service industries and restaurants that help build a great quality of life. So it's the best of what Canada is. It's just really, really spread out over a large area.
There's a lot of rural ridings, especially out west. Of all of them, why do you think this one is the most conservative and not maybe another one? Why Battle River-Crowfoot? What do you think makes this? Why is it that one?
If I could sum it up simply, I'd say, look, it comes down to common sense. The people here know what it's like to have to put food on the table, quite literally. Know what it's like to deal with the energy that our nation needs, whether it's the fuel in your vehicle or the natural gas to light your furnace or the electricity to turn on the lights. The folks here know what that's about, and that common sense permeates every aspect of the lives we live here. It's a tough, independent type of thinker that is out here, and it's because you have to deal with whatever life throws at you, whatever the weather throws at you, whatever the global commodity markets, whatever a liberal government in Ottawa throws at you, you got to deal with that here.
Try to say like an area like that, like someone lives where I live in Ottawa, right? And you just dismiss it as not important, but it's actually ridings like that one are actually very important because they actually provide a lot to the Canadian economy to the back. That's what you're telling me.
100%. Yeah, without rural Canada, we wouldn't have an urban Canada. We wouldn't have the resources needed to build infrastructure. We wouldn't have the energy needed to power our homes and businesses, gas our vehicles, transport our goods, on and on the list goes. And I think that's why largely rural Canada in general, but especially rural Alberta and Battle River-Crowfoot is so conservative. It's not just because it's political party memberships. It's the thinking that drives who we are as a people.
Part 4, the rural-urban divide. Both Kirk and the people I interviewed in Camrose and the riding of Battle River-Crowfoot touch on an important point, that is the rural-urban divide. While Camrose is a city, it is a very small city located in a very rural part of Alberta. Therefore, even when you're in Camrose, you do feel like you're in the countryside, and many of the people have rural ways of life. And here's the thing, one of the biggest divisions in Canada is not left versus right, conservative versus liberal, east versus west, or even religious group against religious group. It is urban versus rural. Because the fact of the matter is, in 2026, the urban lifestyle and the rural lifestyle are radically different. In cities, people are more likely to live close to services, use transit, have offices, or have jobs where they can work from home like I do. They're more likely to rent or live in dense housing, and their priorities are therefore very different from those in rural areas who have to drive long distances to get anywhere and whose lives are tied to land, resources, industry, farming, energy, trucks, small businesses, and local institutions. Policies like carbon taxes, gun bans, and environmental regulations have a very different impact on people that live in cities versus people who live in the countryside. And as a result, people vote differently. And unfortunately, the type of politicians that people in the cities often elect are people who openly work towards policies that harm the people who live in rural Canada. And many people in rural Canada therefore view those politicians and those policies as harmful to their way of life. And I'm not the only one who's saying this. Ashoka, which is a nonprofit organization that promotes social entrepreneurship, has described the urban-rural divide in Canada as both a cautionary tale as well as a threat to the country. And there's some merit there because some of the people I spoke to in Battle River-Crowfoot told me that they've come to the conclusion that their province, Alberta, would be better off outside of Canada.
We would have our own nation. The people would have the say of what's going on in the government, and we wouldn't be bullied by some bureaucratic person down east. Once we break free from that, we won't have to worry about no more equalization.
The reality is, however, without rural communities like the ones in Battle River-Crowfoot and other places in Alberta and across Canada, the country as a whole would suffer immensely. It would be an immense loss, and that is putting it lightly, because rural Canada is not an afterthought. It is what produces the resources, the food, the energy, and the wealth that keeps Canada going. And yet, after 10 years of Liberal governance, many people in rural Canada say they are ignored, talked down to, and even punished by the country that they actively sustain. So to summarize, Camrose and the broader Battle River-Crowfoot are more than just the most conservative parts of Canada. This is a place that is made up of hardworking people, farmers, energy workers, small business owners, and these people represent a part of the country that is essential for Canada's existence and that unfortunately, more often than not, appears to be overlooked by the federal government and those who live in cities. This sums up our story on Camrose and Battle River-Crowfoot. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Be sure you are subscribed, as again, up to 90% of people who watch these videos aren't subscribed. Hit the notification bell, like the video, and until next time, God bless.